Hey guys, Brent Boyer again from Adam. So let's talk divorce, although today it's more of a custody discussion. And before I forget, don't forget to like and subscribe to the video. So today we have a guest speaker with us that's going to talk to us a little bit about a client story that happened just very recently here at our law firm. This is attorney Simone Sprague, and she works here with us at Adam at the Southfield office. And her work on behalf of her client was excellent, and I wanted to share it a little. I thought we could all learn a little something from this client story. So just give you a little bit of background. These two were never married, and they had a support case through one of the local counties here in Metro Detroit. They had joint legal custody, and they had a parenting time agreement, and they have one child, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, how old's the child?
The child is very young, about 4.
Okay, so like a 4-year-old child, and they got into parenting time custody issues, right? So tell us a little bit about that.
So the issue with this case is really an inability to communicate between the parties, particularly from the mother. She is constantly at odds with the child's father, doing whatever she can to really throw him under the bus, keep him from having parenting time, constantly trying to trick him into saying or doing something that she can use against him in court.
Okay.
So that the biggest issue here was trying to get past mom's behavior so that dad can have uninterrupted time with his child.
Okay. So then give us some of I know you got like a timeline that you kind of prepared to help us understand. So give us a sense of what the timeline was. So initially, they had a court order and the dad had a parenting time schedule, right?
Yeah, so this case, there was an initial judgment entered back in October of last year. And this couple has really been in and out of court ever since. Mom has, filed false allegations against dad through CPS, through the police, really doing whatever she can to keep the child from the father.
Okay. So what's some examples of her keeping the child from dad? Like what, should we just make excuses, or what would she say to him?
Sure, well, one allegation would be leaving him unattended or with complete strangers, which is completely not true. He was, providing proper child care.
Okay.
So, or he would come home perhaps with a scratch from playing, and mom would say, well, dad's beating him because he has a scratch on his arm.
Right?
Correct.
So she would overreact or get it wrong or just plain make things
Right.
up.
And unfortunately, when these things are reported, the court and friend of the court and CPS, they have to do an investigation even if it doesn't seem true.
Right.
So these investigations take time, and in that interim, you can't operate parenting time if there's a potential that the child will be in danger.
Okay. So he ran into some interruption of his parenting time, then they would investigate, and then he'd be cleared, but he'd lose time with his child, right?
Right, and then at some point, he was able to bring a motion with the court to try to stop all of this, and they came to an agreement whereas he could do what he wanted with the child during his own parenting time and vice versa. However, and then he agreed to a lot of small things that he thought would make her happy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to cut the child's hair. I'm not going to cut the child's nails. Little things that mom was constantly complaining about, and he agreed to all of it and trying to find some sort of middle ground.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, almost a week after he entered into this agreement, mom's behavior again was very poor. She started accusing him of more things, of harassing her at the police station. So it was really in dad's best interest at this point to get an attorney, and that's where we came in.
Okay. So let's talk about the hair and nails thing a little bit before the attorney. So basically he was using probably a good strategy of just peacekeeping, don't fight about little stuff. If there's a way to, like, you don't want me to cut the hair, I won't cut the hair, even though it's silly. Like, that was kind of his approach, right?
Right. He agreed to use
idea.
the child care providers that she had already pre-approved.
Right.
And unfortunately, it really came back at him in the end because he was making all of the concessions, and she just kept on going.
Right. So the more he gave, the more she took, although thought he was peacekeeping and trying
Right.
to.
And you know, that is what we encourage our clients to do, to try to come to a peaceful resolution.
Right. Yeah.
And so once I got involved in this matter, we decided that the parties would benefit from counseling and therapy, hopefully joint sessions, to eventually help them heal this overarching issue in the relationship, rather than just put a Band-Aid on today's issue.
Oh, good. Yeah. And then, so did the counseling, did any of that work, or did it help, or?
The counseling helped briefly. Unfortunately, the mother continued her poor behavior and ended up hanging up on the counselor and
Oh, geez.
and cursing everyone out. So counseling did not work, or has not worked yet. However, counseling for our client was a great step because it showed the court that he was willing to do what it takes to be in his child's life and to find common ground with the child's mother.
Okay, so that's great. So then, in the meanwhile, was the parenting time, was it effective to take her to court and enforce it? Like, was that getting anywhere?
At the end of the day, that was the only thing that we could do, was take this to court and have a higher power, so to speak,
Right.
give the order.
Okay.
Because when you gave her an inch, she took a mile. And
Yeah.
with some people, unfortunately, they're going to abuse the system.
Right.
So we finally ran into the situation where we said, you know what, there's no more negotiating. We
Okay.
have to take this to the court.
So then, once the court was enforcing parenting time, was it happening? Was he getting his parenting time?
Sure. So our most recent situation is
Yeah.
the father, our client, asked a very simple request to switch his alternating weekends
Okay.
to different weekends, and mom outright refused. And we tried to work with her through it, and she just wasn't having it. So we filed a motion with the court, and happily for our client, the friend of the court was they were on to what was going on with mom.
Okay, good.
We've been reporting to friend of the court every step of the way.
So they knew she was the bad actor through
They knew she was a bad actor.
your advocating and the client letting them know what's going on. So they were onto that.
Yeah.
What was his reason for changing the alternating weekends? What was the
Well,
deal?
with the pandemic and the global crisis caused therefrom, he was unable to switch his work schedule without the potential of being laid off.
Okay.
So it really came down to a choice between exercising parenting time and going to work and providing for himself and his child, which is really an unfair situation to be in, and you
Yeah.
can't win.
So he was going. So he had like first weekend, and third weekend, and he needed like second and fourth.
Correct.
Was that the deal? Okay.
Yes.
So he just needed same amount of time, just different weekends.
Right, and mom said, well, I need a letter from his employer. We provided a letter from the employer. Well, this letter isn't good enough. I'm going to subpoena the employer.
Employer, yeah.
Well, we'll give you a different letter from the employer then to correct or to address your concerns.
Right.
That letter's not good enough either. Finally, the court just said, you know what? We're not even going to go to trial on this. We're not going to have a motion hearing. We're just going to grant you what you want.
Change the weekends.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Yeah, our client in the end got what he wanted, and he also was awarded attorney's fees because mom was being so ridiculous
Right.
and unreasonable.
So that's great. So in your request, in the motion, you asked for attorney fees. She
Correct.
was being unreasonable.
Yes.
And then the court awarded him attorney fees, which is excellent.
Yes, absolutely. And his good faith efforts of trying to negotiate, trying to go to counseling, these all worked in his favor in the end. And it can be frustrating when you're the only one following the rules,
Yeah.
because it really just leaves you to court remedy. But if you keep a record and the court knows exactly what's going on and that you are trying to do what's right, in the end it works out.
That's awesome. Yeah. All right. Great. Good to know. I think people, it's easy to become cynical.
It is.
Maybe for men, but for everybody, it's easy to become cynical. You feel like nobody's going to make her follow the schedule. Nobody's going to make them do what they're supposed to do. But this is good. It just shows that court orders have power, and if we're not going to follow things,
Absolutely.
why have a court system if they can't enforce things and can't take action? So good. That was good. You got a judge that took action and did the right thing, and that's great.
And one of the excellent things in this case that I think is really good advice for our clients and for all the fathers out there is if you have a friend of the court connection, a person who's designated to your case,
Yeah.
communicate with them. Be
Yeah.
open and honest, and of course respectful,
Right.
and just keep them in the loop, because they are going to be one of your best advocates on that side of things.
Yeah, let them know what's going on and don't give up.
Absolutely.
Don't lose hope, and just keep, you know that if you're doing right and they're the bad actor, sooner or later it's gonna catch up with them.
Right. It takes a little more patience,
Yeah,
but you'll
does.
get there, and ideally you'll get attorney's fees awarded as well.
But it's worth it.
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, great. That's great. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Thanks, Fran. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.